Hey folks, welcome to a special bonus episode of Shifting Schools. I'm excited to bring you a conversation from the Outliers in Education podcast by the Center of Educational Effectiveness, where I had the opportunity to sit down and share insights on AI in education and some of the challenges and triumphs we face in the world of education today. As we are into our mini-series on AI in higher education, I wanted to share this episode as a way to support our understanding of how AI is impacting education at all levels of organizations. I'm excited to share this conversation with you and to introduce you to the Outliers in Education podcast. If you haven't already heard about it, it's a great one to add to your feed. So without further ado, here's my interview from Outliers in Education. Enjoy.
Outliers in Education is brought to you by CEE, the Center for Educational Effectiveness. Better data, better decisions, better schools. To find out more, visit effectiveness.org.
Bolsey, this week I've got AI on my mind, and I've been dabbling around it a little bit, but how about you?
Well, because of my incredible technological acumen, I feel like I've taken to it like a duck to water, EP. I mean, why would I not?
All right.
Surprisingly, I think on a personal level, I've found ChatGPT, especially ChatGPT-4, to be super useful. My next most useful technological link was my administrative assistant, who unfortunately, when I left public education, didn't come with me to the Center for Educational Effectiveness. So, I would say at this point for me, AI has been a great leap forward, EP. What are you noticing with AI, both on a personal level and with the babies that you teach there at the Institution of Higher Learning?
I have had it do things for me that have taken me hours. Like if I'm prepping for a presentation or something, like it has really helped me to do some of those pieces. One of my kids is actually using it to write code. But in the classroom, you notice like students that will use it as a resource and you can still see their thumbprint on it. And then you'll see the cut and copy. And like, I have never heard you talk like this ever, right? Like, yeah, that's that kind of a thing. So I think there's a lot of fear out there in the classroom about, how do we deal with it? Like this big monster, it's this sentient thing that's going to destroy us all.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because I've seen, like in my own two children, I think my son now, my sense was academically, he used it as a shortcut. Just write the 3-page paper, whereas I think my daughter used it more as a lit review. So I want to go down 10 slightly different rabbit trails as I'm synthesizing a huge amount of information on X concept. Mm-hmm. And so it's just interesting to watch these kids in their 20s use the technology so differently, both probably to a better end.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people who are afraid of AI right now really should be embracing it, even though I think it has the threat of really changing things, which always scares the crap out of us in education, right?
Well, the threat and the promise, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be real exciting to see where this thing trends and goes.
I think we really need to change how we look at what we do in schools.
Everything that we do as educators, it just comes back to people.
I love it even when it's hard, especially when it's hard.
Ultimately, this is about what's best for kids.
Hello. I'm Eric Price here with Eric Bowles from the Center for Educational Effectiveness, and I want to thank you for joining us for another brand new episode of Outliers in Education, where every month we suss out new ideas that are changing education for the better. Bolsey, when we take a look at AI, I think there are some pretty strong feelings out there and a lot of ignorance to which I could add my own. I've got a lot to learn on this subject.
Fortunately, today on the show, we've got an educator, author, and consultant who has spent a good deal more time than we have considering AI and the impact that it will have on education.
As a former teacher, he's devoted himself to creating sustainable change for modern learners. It's Jeff Utecht. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me, gentlemen. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Jeff, when we take a look at AI, maybe that knee-jerk reaction is like, this is going to be awful for education. We need to defend against it. I'm just going to ask you, is AI really a bad thing for education, or are we responding in the wrong way typically, do you think?
That's a really good question. And I think for me, the thing that the way that I come about it is this idea that really in education, we don't have a choice. You can think it's a bad thing. You can think it's the next golden ticket to helping students learn. That doesn't matter. What matters is we picked a profession where it is our job to prepare students for their future and not our past. And that is my tagline. That is what I live by as a consultant.
Say that one again for us, Jeff. Say that one. That's a beautiful line.
Yeah.
As a history teacher, right?
As a history teacher, yeah. Our goal, our job as educators is to prepare students for their future, not our past. And when stuff like this comes along, and it usually happens with technology, not all the time, our knee-jerk reaction is always to think about what are all the ways this could go wrong. Right? We did it with the calculator. We did it when the internet came into schools. I sat on a committee where we debated for months whether or not to give every teacher an email address because no way was teachers ever going to use email.
Yeah.
We did it when we put Wi-Fi into schools. We did it when we gave every kid a laptop. And here we are now with AI. And the knee-jerk reaction is always going to be, I don't know how this is going to do. This is going to change everything. We did the same thing when Google came out. And you might remember this, when the internet came out, we were just like, I don't want kids to be internet. They're going to forget how to use encyclopedias. And they did forget, how to use encyclopedias because no school buys encyclopedias.
Right.
And so things change. And our job in education is to make sure that we are preparing students for their future. My past is my past. I loved going and looking in encyclopedias. I loved going to microfiche, said nobody ever. Right? but we have a generation that our goal is to look forward. This is what we do in education, to look forward, to look at the kids that are in our system and say, what are the skills, dispositions, and talents that they need to make this world a better place as they leave our K-12 system.
So I'm gonna just hop in a little bit because I know we're gonna get into some AI stuff, but I really want to get into this. Why is that our posture as educators? Like we want to protect and defend what we've done in the past. Why do we do that?
So there's a couple reasons why I think that we do this. And the number one thing, and I talk about this a lot because I work a lot outside of education as well, and people are always on me about education. And you know what? At the end of the day, education is the hardest organization to change. It's the hardest structure to change. And the reason for that is it is the only thing here in America, it is the only thing that every single person has gone through. Whether you are a parent, whether you are an educator yourself, whether it worked for you or not, every person went through K-12 education. And so what happens is then we become educators, we become parents, and we remember our best teachers. We remember our best years. And we want that education for our children. We want that. We want our best teachers. When you become an educator, you were channeling your best teacher when you were in 7th grade or 9th grade. And you remembered having to write the essays and reading, Where the Red Fern Grows, and so you want that for your kids.
So we reminisce a lot.
Parents do the same thing. And this is why it's really difficult, because all of a sudden something like AI comes along and they're saying, well, kids aren't going to have to write. Well, no. Kids will need to write, but writing will be different.
Right.
Writing will be different. Kids are still writing.
Yeah.
We did the exact same thing, and I don't want to get too far into social media, but we did the same thing with social media. Kids are no longer going to write. In fact, kids are writing more than they did before, but they're in tweets. They're in descriptions of Instagram posts. They're in updates to Snapchat. They're not 5-paragraph essays.
But we can't sentence diagram those darn things. That's the thing that pisses me. Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting. The one thing that you said there is they're still writing, but it's going to be in a different way. And I think that one of those pushes I see in education is when we have to do extra calories, like we're like, whoa, wait a minute, right? And as well as I'm not sure how to deal with this new structure that's coming in.
And I think that's a huge part of it is, especially with technology, you find this in education. These are heavy lifts. We don't have any teachers right now, whether you are a brand new teacher coming into the system or you've been teaching in it for 30 years, everybody's in the same place when it comes to AI. Nobody knows how to use this in the classroom. Nobody knows where it's going to go or what it's going to impact. But my favorite part about right now, this is my first time in 25 years in education and educational technology that K-12 education is having this conversation on your podcast. We don't do this when it comes to technology. We usually wait 10 or 15 years down the road, and then we all of a sudden are saying, kids, cell phones are a distraction. Well, we should have been talking about cell phones being a distraction in 2012.
Yeah.
But we waited till 2024, and now we're trying to backfill all this. And what I love about our conversation right now is that nobody has the answers to where AI is going. No, not a single industry, not a single organization, but we're all having the conversation. And what I need right now is I need K-12 organizations. I need K-12 leaders to be in the conversation. That's it. Keep your eye on it. Know it's coming. Play with it. You don't need to have the answers. You don't need to know how it's going to impact your ELA class because nobody has yet. But be in the conversation so that as it evolves, we are evolving with it. Instead of trying to play catch up 10 years from now saying, oh, wow, we probably should have really taught kids how to use this because now we've got kids just spewing out AI papers that nobody can detect.
So, Jeff, I'm a 56-year-old digital immigrant. And what that suggests is an awful lot of people who look like me are leading school systems into this brave new world. What do they need to know?
Well, I think step one is to know that not a whole lot has changed. I think we get so caught up in reading headlines and not reading research. And this isn't just with AI. This is with everything. And it doesn't matter your age. We all do it. What I usually find in my trainings is I've got about a third of it, and it doesn't matter on the age. Doesn't matter what school or school district I'm in. A third of people are, oh my gosh, I hate AI. It's going to take over the world. I don't know what to do. I have a third of the people that are just like, whatever. It's just the next new thing. And then I have a third of people saying this is going to revolutionize education and we're going to do things completely different than we ever did. And the great thing is you need all those perspectives, but we need to all be moving forward. And we all have to have this idea of, I don't care where you are about AI. I care about what are the skills that this child needs to go to the future. And what we are seeing now is in industries and organizations, we don't see any industry or organization saying, you know what, Eric, I really want you to be really good at your job being a banker. Just don't use AI. We don't see anybody saying that. We don't see anybody saying, hey, you know what? I hired you to be my executive assistant, but whatever you do, don't use AI in doing the work that you have to do in making yourself better. We don't see that happening.
Yeah.
What we see is the opposite happening, where people are saying, and we're getting to a point where we're not even going to ask if you know how to leverage AI to do the work that I'm hiring you to do. We are just going to assume you know how to use it appropriately, you know how to use it effectively to do the work that I hired you to do.
So, Jeff, you mentioned AI literacy. Somebody like me doesn't even know what that means. What does that mean to you? What should it mean to us?
Yeah, so we're seeing a couple things around AI literacy, and I think we're still defining it on a larger scale of what that means. But really what AI literacy means is understanding at a fundamental level how you put together a sentence structure, right? Now, we talk about literacy in writing. We talk about literacy in reading. We talk about media literacy. You know, when we look at media literacy, that's probably the closest thing we have for AI literacy right now. And when we talk about media literacy, we talk about actually dissecting the media that's coming at us. It's one of my favorite things to do with kids because we're all bombarded by ads. Whether it's be a billboard, whether it's social media, whether it's an advertisement while you're watching a football game. We're all bombarded by ads.
This podcast has been brought to you by Fox News.
Yeah, exactly. And so the idea here is, how do you break that down and understand what is the message that's coming at you? When we talk about AI literacy, it's that exact same thing. It's understanding that there are three sides to this. And this is one of the things I love that we've done here in the state of Washington is we've taken what we call a human-centric approach. And Superintendent Reichdahl, who I know you just had on your show not that long ago, really engaged in us because I helped to lead the work here in the state of Washington around this, is he wanted to use this thing called HAIH, right? Human input, AI does its thing, and then human empowerment, that whatever we use AI for needs to empower us as humans. That whole process is considered AI literacy. And what we have to start to understand is that human input side, how you prompt these things, is AI literacy. And here's just one little thing for all your listeners, no matter what age you are. Here's the biggest issue we're having right now. And if you want to go try this with ChatGPT or pick any AI bot, the number one change when we talk about AI literacy is that we have to change our mindset around the way that we talk to computers. For the last 25 years, we have been training students, we have been training teachers, we've been training society to talk to their computers through keywords, AKA Google. And so we all know how to interact with our machines as if they are Google. And that's what we taught kids. The keywords matter. The way you sentence structure matters. In a search result, you're looking for this, this, and this. And that is a search literacy. Now, when it comes to AI literacy, what we have to understand is when I'm talking to people, they're like, well, I tried it and it doesn't really work. And I'm like, well, the problem is it's probably because you're trying to use it like a search.
We've never heard that.
Yeah, you're trying to use it like a search engine. It's not a search engine. It's a creation tool. And so when it comes to using your AI, the most important part of the prompt is the verb. Oh, you mean ELA where we study nouns and verbs? Oh, the verb is the most important. Do you want this thing to create? Do you want it to analyze? Do you want it to evaluate? Do you want it to synthesize? Do you want it to expand? That's the power of this. If you've been struggling with AI, you're probably not using the right verb. The verb is the key.
So if you said, hey, this is the way that we should be interfacing, talk to me like I'm a teacher, this is the way that you should be using it, what would you say to me as a teacher? Like, this is how we're doing it and this is how you should switch.
So I think there's two things that we're going to have to get very clear on in education. Number one, the first thing is this is going to focus us to truly understand what is the outcome I'm assessing. If I am not crystal clear on the outcome that I am assessing, then it doesn't matter, then nothing else is going to matter. The second part is because we now all live in an AI world, one of the, I think, most popular pieces that we released here in our AI guidance in the state of Washington is we released an AI matrix. That is a 5-step matrix that goes from no use of AI at all to, on the high end, use AI to learn whatever it is you need to learn. And what teachers need to do is every single assignment, you're going to say, hey, on this assignment, the outcome I'm assessing is X. Therefore, you can use AI in all these other ways, but don't use it this way because that's what I'm assessing.
Do you think that, like, when we were looking at that most teachers don't look at the outcome of most assignments or more structures anyway?
Yes, I think that's a huge part of it. And I think one of the issues is we are not clear on our outcomes. And when we're not clear on our outcomes, we cause confusion along the line. One of my favorite, can I tell a story real quick of just how this happens? Okay.
Anything to keep me and Bulls from talking, Jeff, please.
Okay. So here's one that I just got this from a school district about 2 months ago. All right. A teacher, high school kids, 11th graders, a teacher assigns students to write a report. This student writes a report, doesn't use AI, writes the report, turns the report in, gets a great grade on the report. The teacher then decides to extend the activity with writing a report and decides she wants to hit a standard that is also public speaking. So she's asked her students, okay, I want you to take this report that you just wrote and I want you to turn it into a talk. And we're going to practice TED Talks, right? So they've got to be 18 minutes. They've got to be succinct. You've got to make a point, like the whole thing, which is great, right? We've got all kinds of public speaking standards. This teacher's doing incredible stuff. This kid takes his report, goes to ChatGPT and says, how could you help me take this report and turn it into a TED Talk? Could you help me write a script for this talk? And uses, as a thought partner, uses ChatGPT to help him create his speech. So then he goes back to school, he stands up in front of class and he gives the talk. And the teacher gives him a bad grade or even gives him a 0 because he used AI in creating the speech.
No.
See, here's the issue. Was the outcome that you were trying to assess speech, public speaking, or was it speech writing? If the outcome was speech writing,
exactly.
The kid 100% should get a 0. But if you were assessing a student's ability to stand in front of a group of others and give a public speak as if it was a TED Talk, I don't care how you made the speech. That's not the outcome.
Yeah. I always got in trouble when I used thought partners on my assignments in school, Jeff. Like that was not looked upon well from my teachers. But it was not AI. It was the guy I was cheating from.
Well, and this is the problem, right? Is Stanford came out and did a study that before the pandemic in 2018, 2019, they did a study that showed that 60 to 70% of students were cheating in high school. They did a study in 2023 last fall. They did a study again after AI came out. They found a 60 to 70% of kids admitted to cheating. So here's the thing. This whole thing that AI has created cheating, no, it hasn't. We are still looking at 60 to 70% of kids that are cheating in high school. Do you know what AI has done? it's made it easier to catch the kids. We should all be thanking AI because before, Eric, I was cheating from you, you were cheating from me. It was human to human. It was hard to tell. But now when kids use a machine, you can say like, oh, that a machine totally wrote that. And so all of a sudden we think the plagiarism is out of control.
Yes.
No, we're just catching the kids.
Yeah, right on.
We're catching the kids.
Yeah.
We're still not catching them.
We're not finished augmenting our actual intelligence. Hang tight, and we'll be right back after the break with more from our guest, AI expert, Jeff Utecht.
School districts across the country are turning their focus to social emotional learning like never before. But who has the time? Now you do, thanks to the Whole Educators series, an online SEL training that you take at your own pace. 6 modules packed with proven strategies that will make a difference right away.
The training was awesome. The content was amazing.
This workshop is going to make you a better educator.
Taught by SEL expert Dr. Greg Benner, the Whole Educators series delivers strategies to ease the stress on you while bringing out the best in your students.
These strategies, they work. You'll be amazed at the results, not only with the youth you serve, but also in your own life. He's telling us strategies that we can implement tomorrow.
Absolutely a home run.
Professional development at the speed of life. Check out the Whole Educators series online SEL training, available now from CEE at effectiveness.org/workshops. That's effectiveness.org/workshops.
Welcome back to the AI edition of Outliers in Education. Today on the show, we're speaking with educator, author, and speaker Jeff Utecht about AI and how educators should approach this rapidly expanding technology.
Jeff, what do you see as both the major threats to education and the major opportunities with AI, if you were to contrast?
The major threat is that we don't accept that it's here. That's the major threat, right? If we don't accept it's here, if we wait too long. I was having a conversation with a superintendent the other day that was saying, I just really don't want to lead on AI. I'm going to wait for it to kind of plateau. And I was thinking, okay, but the problem is you don't know where that plateau is going to be, and you need to be in the conversation. Like, that's fine. You don't want to be the front runner, but you need to keep the conversation going. As a school leader, you've got to keep the conversation going right now. Let your scouts, I call them scouts, let your scouts go out and run. Like, your early adopters, your geeky teachers, you got to go let them run. Let them go figure out. And then they come back and they say, no, we're headed that way. That's where we need to go. Everybody needs their tech scouts, right? Go out, figure it out, come back and tell us which way we need to go. So that to me, I think is the thing we cannot, as we have done with technologies in the past, just sit here and say, we'll get to it when it figures itself out. No, that puts us behind the 8 ball, and our kids are using it. The latest study shows that 60% of high school kids are already engaging with AI in some way. If that's the case, then our job is to prepare them for a future. They're going to use it whether we do or not in the school. I want to use it in school, so I make sure they're using it the right way, right? So there's that side of it. The other side is if we do truly start to look at the power of this thing, specifically in supporting students who are struggling in schools, and that's where the research is really starting to pile up, is students who are not your top 10%. If you have your AP kids or IB kids in high school, your kids who are already probably a 3.5 or higher, AI, not going to impact them very much. But your kids who are struggling, your kids like myself who have dyslexia, you kids who have processing disorders, kids who struggle in one specific class because they're just not understanding it, we are seeing evidence starting to pile up that that's who this supports. Our most needy of kids.
That is awesome. And that's the place where we need the most help, right? The students
we're always
that we
looking for the most help.
Exactly. That's fantastic. Okay, Jeff, if you get out the crystal ball and you say, okay, look, 5 years from now, this is kind of what it should look or what you think it will look like. What do you see 5 years from now in education?
That's really hard because this thing is moving so fast. I'm getting ready to do trainings for keynotes for August, and I've told every school district, I don't know what I'm going to say yet because that's literally 2 months from now. And this is the way this thing is going. I have no clue where we'll be in 2 months. But I think for 5 years from now, there's going to be a couple things I think we'll be able to look at. I think we're going to have one of our biggest things is going to be, we are going to have so much data on students that AI is going to be able to crunch through. And, you'll be able to have an AI bot that's going to go into every teacher's grade book. And so when you type in, hey, how is Jeff Utecht doing? It's going to be able to pull out and say, well, he's getting a B here, but these are the 3 standards he's struggling on. He's getting a C here. Here are the 4 standards he's struggling on. If you're his ELA teacher, you could actually support him in learning the science standard by overlapping that science standard with your next reading material. And as a teacher, you're going to have access to that stuff. I think that's one. I think it's going to revolutionize the way, because we talk about data-driven decisions all the time. We have no clue what we've been doing compared to what this thing's going to help us do, right? On the student side, I see that we're going to get to a place where students are going to have, at a very low cost, maybe done by the school, or it might be some outside vendor, but they're almost going to have a personal tutor. And that personal tutor, their AI tutor, will be with them. And that AI tutor is going to go to class with them. That AI tutor is going to be able to listen to every lecture that the child has heard inside class. They're going to be there to support them. And so when I'm home studying for the test, I will have somebody else there to say, okay, well, what about this? And how do I do this? What does this look like? And I don't want us to misrepresent that. I don't think that tutor replaces students talking to students. I think it allows us to have students talk in really engaging ways differently. And that's what I want to see. Is one of the things we're still trying to lean into with this stuff is the generative nature of it. That every time you give it a prompt, every single person gets a different response. That to me changes the classroom, because when I have 25 different kids where I can say, everybody, here's a prompt. Everybody put this prompt into your AI bot. Now turn and talk to your neighbor. What did you get? What was the output? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What are the biases that you think might be in that response based on its training data? What is it that we need to consider, knowing that your bot was trained this way and your bot was trained that way? And that's going to change the conversations of the classroom. We're so worried that technology is going to take away student-to-student interaction. We stop thinking about how can we leverage this to make more human-to-human connectivity in our classrooms.
Jeff, I'm a principal looking down the barrel of September, or a 27-year veteran classroom teacher. Where do I start with this stuff next year?
It's a great question. I think there are 3 things right now. This is a great time of year to be talking about this. There's 3 things we need to have in place for next year. Number 1, we need to have some kind of AI matrix in place so that you as a teacher can say, on today's assignment, we're going to use AI at a level 3, or today's assignment, we're going to use AI at a level 4, whatever you decide, right? And you get that. But you need to have something that we can point to so that myself and my students all understand today's a level 3. That way, if a student uses it at a level 5, we can have a conversation about it, right? But I have to have something I can point to say that we all understand where we are. And you can find these matrices everywhere. Again, we've got one that's being adopted inside the Washington State AI guidance, but you can find them all over the web. Find one that works for you. That's step 1. Step 2 is to clearly state what are the expectations for students. So we need to update some language in our syllabi. We're going to need to update some language in our student handbook around the use of AI. And really that is that you as a student are responsible for being able to explain your process of learning. So that if I as a teacher come to you and say, hey, it looks like you used AI, like I'm thinking that there's some AI in this piece of work. Can you explain your thought process or your workflow to get to this piece of work? And I need every student to be able to say, well, yeah, if the student says, I went to ChatGPT, copied and pasted the prompt and printed it off, that's one conversation. But if the student says, well, I was struggling, I didn't know where to start, so I asked ChatGPT to help me brainstorm some ideas. I took one of those ideas and asked it to write me an outline, and then I took the outline and did some research on Google and came up with this paper. As a teacher, that's a completely different conversation.
But you're getting to outcome again. Like, what's your purpose, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And then the third part of that is what are the expectations for me as a teacher, right? The expectations for me as a teacher is my outcomes are very clear. I have set a clear tone of what I believe AI use on this specific assignment should be. And I've given you the skills necessary to use AI in appropriate and ethical ways. So those are the 3 things we need: AI matrix, student guidelines, and teacher responsibilities.
Yeah, and I think all of those keep coming back to your salient point, which is we need to know what we're doing with whatever tool that it is that we're using. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, this is the time when we have our own AI champion of summary, Jeff. This is Bowlesy's time that he summarizes everything that you've ever said in the last half an hour or thought. Bowlesy, you're up.
Well, it sounds a little bit like ChatGPT, EP.
A little bit for you, my friend.
So I think the big overarching theme I took out of this was we were just peppered with Jeff's infusion of Simon Sinek's diffusion of innovation throughout this entire thing, really talking about leaders and laggards. And, you know, it's okay to be wherever you are as long as we're moving forward as a system. Right off the top, I really liked, you may not like AI, but we don't have a choice. Our job is to prepare kids for their future, not our past. I think we all believe that to a high degree, at least on this podcast. Education is the hardest thing to change because we all experience it. I think just the difficult nature of the work, I think, was underscored by what Jeff had to say there. We read headlines and not research. I just love that. I had to throw that in there. AI literacy is related to media literacy. I really hadn't thought about it that way, but that just kind of smacked me right in the face. That's absolutely right. That's crystal clear. You know, what's the quality of the output? Because we talked outputs and outcomes an awful lot as we went. We need to be retrained from search literacy to how we talk to the computer. In essence, really moving from nouns to verbs for all of you ELA files out there. What's the outcome I am assessing? I think we've not been clear on that for a long time. That was a great part of our conversation. Always important in pedagogy, way more important now. And I just love the analogy of don't confuse whether the assignment was speech writing or speech giving. Are we assessing the right thing? Are we assessing that outcome? Denial of AI is, you know, one of our biggest threats. And, you know, we wouldn't say we're going to go ahead and wait for the better cancer research, or, you know what, it's okay that we've got a lot of folks out here that we're not on the cutting edge in literacy instruction in this school, but we'll wait for another school to figure it out. You know, who knows how many kids' opportunity to become literate will pass. We would not say that. So we can't deny the use of AI either. Support for our struggling students, that really resonated with me. We heard Andrea Bittner, who's just an absolutely wonderful podcast guest, national speaker, still practicing teacher, talking about how she would utilize AI to really simplify and differentiate reading levels for her multilingual learners. So really seeing that thread through these two podcasts. I thought about just playing around a little bit with Brisk for Google. I thought about some of my least favorite work as a central office administrator was curriculum adoption and just the ability to manipulate standards and the cross-cutting aspect of standards that AI is going to help us do so much easier than the years of pain I spent trying to herd cats into curriculum adoption. How can tech be used to facilitate human connectivity? Maybe is the right question we should all be asking a whole lot more. And then to paraphrase from our friends, the Beatles, and in the end, AI may just be the thing that leads us from fuzzy outcomes and foggy taxonomy to the land of clarity. And maybe AI is all you need.
I don't remember that song, but it really is a catchy verse, Bowlesy. We'll have to work on that one. Jeff, thanks being here. Honestly, so good. You've got your website, jeffutecht.com. Your latest book out is Your Connected Classroom, a practical guide for teachers. Check that one out. Your fantastic podcast, Shifting Schools. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, that's going to be there. Anything else that we missed, Jeff, that where we could find you or find some of your thinking?
Nope, I think that's it. At Utecht, that's Jutecht, all over the socials. And for all kinds of free downloads and guides around AI and AI leadership, you can go to shiftingschools.com, which is also the home of the podcast. We've got all kinds of free PDFs over there for you to download and kind of get you started in doing this work. So thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Jeff, such a pleasure to have you on. I wish there was more people like you that were here to break our education system and say we got to do the right thing for everybody.
Appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen.
And thank you, all of you, for listening to this episode of Outliers in Education. You can get this episode at our website, effectiveness.org, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
If you'd like to find out how to gather the data you need to help drive positive change in your school or district, take a moment to visit CEE, the Center for Educational Effectiveness, at effectiveness.org. Better data, better decisions, better schools. Effectiveness.org.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. I wanted to remind you not to miss out on our webinar series happening April 17th that we're calling Unlock the Power of AI for K-12 Learning. Join us for 3 engaging 45-minute webinars designed for future-facing educators like you. Can't make it live? No problem. Your ticket includes access to all the recordings. Remember to use code SSPOD25 at checkout to save $25 on registration. If you have a team of 5 or more who would like to join us, contact us for our team rate. You can learn more and register at shiftingschools.com. Hope to see you there April 17th.